The seed of addiction to improvement starts with conditional love. So the majority of people that I've worked with who struggle with this problem have parents who are very conditional with their love. When we sort of think about parenting, we kind of think like, okay, parents should give unconditional love, right? That's what raises healthy kids. And what does unconditional love mean? It means that I love you no matter what you do. So you can do well or you can do poorly, and my love for you is the same. It doesn't mean that we don't encourage you to do well or we don't reward you to do well, but that fundamental sense of love is there no matter what. But oftentimes, if you're kind of one of these people who feels like, I got to do better, I got to do better, I got to do better, where did you get that idea? You got that idea from your parents who were conditional with the love that they provided. In the household that I grew up when I was 9 years old, my dad sort of told me and my brother, he was like, one of you is going to be doctor and one of you is going to be lawyer. And so I learned at a very young age that my value as a human being depends on my performance. And whether I'm loved, whether I'm a good kid or good little Indian boy or bad little Indian boy, depends on whether I get straight A's. No girlfriend, no fun. You need to get grades, grades, grades. And so literally the affection and love that I felt in my household was somewhat conditional based on my performance.
Hey y'all, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Babbel. Babbel is the top language learning app worldwide. And if you're interested in learning a new language, I can't recommend them enough. There are a couple reasons why I really love Babbel. The first is that it's built by actual language educators. So these are people who have a ton of experience in teaching people how to speak new languages. The second reason that I really like them is that their method is scientifically backed, and they've been able to demonstrate that they can teach the basics of a new language in as little as 3 weeks. The third reason why I really love Babbel is that it's very easy to use and replaces the wasted time in my day. So instead of doom scrolling, I'm actually spending time learning a new language. So right now, for example, I'm learning Spanish, and I recently learned how to say aprendo español, which means I'm learning Spanish. So what I love about the app is that it's really easy to use. So right now, let's say I logged in and I don't want to learn something new, so I'm going to go ahead and review. And not only do I have the option to review, but then they give me lots of choices. So what do I feel like doing right now? I don't want to do something very intensive, but I want to do something kind of passive. So I'm going to just take a look at some flashcards. So that's what I really love about the app is they make learning a language really, really easy, and you can squeeze it into different parts of your day. It's very accessible. So if you're interested in learning a new language, I strongly recommend Babbel. If you use a link in the description below, you can get 60% off of your subscription, which is an awesome deal. And I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Babbel, for helping us keep mental health content on the internet free.
If you grew up in a household like that, this may be resonating with you, whether like, the affection that your parents gave you depended on how well you did at particular things. And if you did grow up in a household like that, your mind constructed a view of the world, that my value as a human being depends on my performance. Therefore, if I am feeling bad about myself, what do I need to do? I need to perform so that I can show everyone how good I am. And now we move on to a really important adaptation that people who are addicted to self-improvement have, which is that they use external factors to solve internal problems. So we sort of know about this, and this is actually a little bit more common in men, is that sometimes when we feel bad emotionally, we will turn to an external thing to fix an internal emotional problem. So if I'm addicted to, let's say, like heroin or alcohol or marijuana, how do I fix that anxiety or feeling bad about myself? I turn to an external thing to make it feel better, right? I'm going to drink alcohol, I'm going to get high, and I can do an external action to improve my internal state. For people who are addicted to self-improvement, they just turn to a different kind of action, right? I'm going to accomplish something. So if I feel insecure and unlovable on the inside, like I don't really belong here, I feel like an imposter, what am I going to do? I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. I'm going to rise to the top. And if I rise to the top, then I will feel pride, right? People will respect me. People will love me. People will like me. And then this feeling of insecurity or lack of love on the inside will go away. But that's not actually what happens, right? So if you're addicted to self-improvement, you know this, that even when you get a gold medal, you're not like chilling and happy, right? The first thing that you're thinking about is, oh my God, who's going to beat me next year? And even when there aren't competitions, like let's say, for example, like you do a group project or you pitch something to your boss, even if they say like, hey, great pitch, in your mind, what you're sort of thinking is like, that person's just saying that. I know I could have done something better. And then you go asking for feedback and you're like, what could I have done better? What could I have done better? And so what you sort of fall into is this sort of idea where when you have a negative emotion, you're going to engage in an external behavior to make that negative emotion go away. But there's a fundamental problem with that, which is that any kind of relief that you get is temporary, because fundamentally, emotional problems require emotional solutions. So a good example of this is people who are like afraid of being behind in like romantic situations, right? If I'm like a virgin or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm a loser, like I feel bad about myself because I'm a virgin. That is a insecurity that I have internally. And so how am I going to fix this? I'm going to sign up for some like pickup artist course or whatever. I'm going to like become a Chad or whatever. And I'm going to like do better in life, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to get laid. So I'm going to fix this problem by getting laid. But when I work with people who are, insecure about being virgins, and they will go get laid, either sort of some meaningless kind of sex at a party where everyone's drunk, or in some cases, they'll even work with like a sex worker or a prostitute, that doesn't actually fix the problem. In their mind, they're sort of thinking like, okay, if I fix this thing on the outside, it will make me feel better on the inside. And so they go on fixing those external things. And this is exactly what happens with people who are addicted to self-improvement. I don't know where I'm going in life. Let me go to a spiritual retreat where I will fix that problem. I don't know what's happening in my life. I'm not getting promoted, or I don't feel like I'm a competent person, or I feel like an imposter. Let me go work really hard so I can get promoted, and then the imposter syndrome will go away, right? On the contrary, the imposter syndrome gets worse, because now I've tricked these people into promoting me. And the imposter syndrome is like, oh my God, like now I'm going to screw it up and people are going to realize they never should have promoted me in the first place. It doesn't work, because emotional problems require emotional solutions. Now, there's a caveat to this, right? Or there's a counterpoint, which is that sometimes, let's say I feel unloved, or I'm afraid of being a virgin, or I have low self-esteem or whatever, and then I can get into a relationship, and sometimes that can actually fix the problem, right? Sometimes if I like find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and like that can fix the problem. How's that the case? Well, there's a big difference between getting laid and entering into a relationship that is emotionally nurturing, right? So if you're actually in a relationship where sure, you're having sex, but then this person also gives you like an emotional antidote to your needs, then that's a completely different story, because emotional problems require emotional solutions. And if I'm insecure about being a virgin, it's not getting laid that's going to fix it. It's actually entering into a relationship where someone helps me feel loved and accepted, and accepts me for being a virgin in the first place. And this is the trap that people fall into, is that we start to think that external things will fix my emotions. And we sort of also see that in cases of people who are very materialistic, right? They go on like buying lots of stuff to make themselves feel better. Or we see this even in the cases of toxic relationships, where some people that I've worked with, and you may fall into this, where like you will do anything that you can to get someone to like you, right? And so you end up becoming a doormat and putting up with a lot of abuse, because you think that if you can convince this person to like you, then you will feel loved. But it doesn't work like that. And self-improvement addiction is even worse than any of those other examples, because self-improvement addiction does a couple of other things that are really devastating. The first is that it objectively improves our life. So think about this, right? So if I'm so friggin' insecure that like I'm terrified that I'm going to fail a test, so what do I end up doing? I torture myself with anxiety and I study really hard. And then I get an A, and then I wind up in medical school. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm an imposter. So I got to work really hard because I don't deserve to be here. And then I do really well, and I end up at the top of my class. And then I match to a beautiful residency at some Ivy League institution. So if we really look at self-improvement addiction, it's really, really scary, because being addicted to self-improvement objectively correlates with like better success in life. And so when I work with these people, what I end up discovering is, if I were to ask you like, you're addicted to self-improvement, is it a problem? You say yes. And then I ask you, okay, like despite all the fact that you've succeeded these 5 times, do you feel better about yourself as a human being? And you're like, no. And then I ask this question, which is, do you want to change? And at the beginning, people will say, yeah, I'm tired of being unhappy. But if we kind of like go deeper into the conversation, I'm like, do you want to change? And then they end up saying, no, I don't want to change. And why is that? It's because my addiction to self-improvement gives me direction in life. It gives me fuel. It gives me energy. It allows me to accomplish stuff. And so what these people, the reason they're so friggin' addicted, and the reason it's such a hard addiction to kick, is because they don't want to give it up. And this is true of all addictions as well. Why are addictions hard to kick? It's not because they're harmful. It's because they're helpful. If you're very successful and you're addicted to self-improvement, and we take away your insecurity, what's going to help you wake up in the morning? Why are you going to go to work? How are you going to decide what to gun for, right? So addiction to self-improvement, when we have this insecurity, it gives us a sense of direction and it gives us energy. And we don't even want to give it up, because if we lose our direction and we lose our fuel, then like, what are we doing in life? Like, how do I know what I'm going to be doing? Like, I have no direction. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to be sitting at home. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to become the failure that I am afraid I've always been. So this is the huge problem, is that people don't want to give up their addiction to self-improvement. So how do we fix this? So the first thing that we've got to understand, once again, is that emotional problems require emotional solutions. So the one concrete thing that I would recommend to everyone who is addicted to self-improvement is stop looking outside yourself to fix that kind of thing, right? So if you feel insecure, share it with someone else. You can talk to a therapist, you can talk to a coach, you can talk to a boyfriend, you can talk to a girlfriend, which is what we're terrified to do, right? But here's the problem, is that right now, the reason you're in this mess is because when you feel insecure, you go and try to fix it on the outside. You never actually try to fix it emotionally. So what I would strongly recommend that you do is share that emotion with someone. I know it sounds crazy, but that's literally all you got to do, right? So as you share that emotion, something is going to happen. The emotion will start getting better. You will start to realize, okay, I am loved. Like if you go to your boyfriend or girlfriend or your non-binary partner, whatever, you go to someone that you love and you share with them, hey, like, I'm afraid that I'm undeserving of your love. And yeah, it's really challenging and yeah, it's really vulnerable, but that's when like, you don't need to do anything in that moment to earn their love. If they really love you, they're going to love you anyway. And then something very important will happen. Holy crap. If I feel unloved, I don't need to do anything to fix it. I don't need to do anything to deserve love. I'm deserving of love and this person is giving me love anyway. And that's when there's a fundamental crack in the way that you view the world, which is going to be where a lot of this healing and growth comes from. Now, some of y'all may be paranoid because I don't want to do that because it's scary. I get that. And how are you going to manage that fear? You're going to go take some course on managing fear and boosting your EQ, right? Oh, I'm afraid. I have to go fix that fear through something else. Dr. K, tell me how to fix the fear. I get that, right? So we're just going to skirt past that for a second. And the next thing that we really need to understand is that a lot of people are paranoid about this because if I no longer have the fear driving me, then it's going to lead to problems. So right now I'm in this relationship with a awesome person who is better than I am, and I don't deserve to be in this relationship. It is my fear of them abandoning me that causes me to go the extra mile and become the epic partner. I'm a A+ partner because I'm afraid they're going to leave me, right? That's how, and that's why they stay, because if you stop being an A+ partner, then you would leave because you're not fundamentally lovable. This is a cycle. And so you try really hard, you burn yourself out to make this person, assure that this person never discovers who you are. And are you actually happy in that relationship? Absolutely not. So start by sharing your emotions, because emotional problems require emotional solutions, and you'll start to feel better. There's another problem that we have to solve, though, is if you start feeling better, what we're doing is draining your gas tank, right? Because it's the fear or the insecurity that causes you to progress in life objectively and stay in this relationship. And that's where you'll discover something really cool, which is that once you're no longer living life to fix an insecurity, that is when you start to live life like for fun and excitement. So people who are addicted to self-improvement are going to live a life of avoidance. We're trying to avoid this catastrophe constantly. And so your life is so stressful. But the thing is, if I'm avoiding that catastrophe, I know like I've got direction because I'm always running away from the fire, right? Like, where's the fire? We're going to run in the opposite direction. And the fire keeps chasing us because that's what fire does, right? It doesn't just stop. It just keeps coming. And so the it keeps growing and growing and growing. And I keep running and running and running. And at least I've got direction. If the fire stops, which direction do I go? And this is what's beautiful, is once you stop running from the fire, you can start moving towards stuff that actually excites you. So what I've noticed in the probably well over 100 people that I've worked with who are addicted to self-improvement is that they're terrified that they will no longer have direction in life. But actually, the direction in life that they find is exactly the direction in life that they want, which is I want to stop living a life of fear and avoidance. I want to start living a life where I move towards joy and excitement. And the way to do that is to stop running away from the fire, right? And as you start sort of healing yourself emotionally, then there is space in your mind for you to get excited about stuff. Literally, there are studies on burnout that show that the first thing to go when you are burnt out is curiosity. The brain does not have time for curiosity or excitement or joy when our ship is sinking and we're in damage control. So start by vocalizing your emotions, sharing them with someone else. Give other people a chance to accept you without you doing a good job. And the moment that starts to happen, your emotions will start to feel better. You will start to feel a little bit healed. You'll start to feel loved. And you will create the space in your mind for things like curiosity or excitement, which will ultimately give you a completely different compass, which is the compass that you've been looking for this entire time, which is, I want to live a life where I'm successful and is filled with joy. But you can't do that as long as you're addicted to self-improvement.